Everybody having a good conference? Great. My name is Casey Green. I'm the founding director of the Campus Computing Project. I do some other things. I write the digital tweet blog for Inside Higher Ed, an underfed blog. I am here today as, in the context of some other work I do, as the moderator of To a Degree, which is the post-secondary success podcast for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. One of the challenges of a conference like this is there are too many choices. Just as all of you had to decide which sandwich you wanted for lunch, yesterday during the breakout sessions you had to decide where would you go. And many of you made the wrong choice, because behind me we had an exceptional group of students to talk about their experience getting in, being in, and looking beyond college. This is part two of that conversation. We intentionally did not provide question time yesterday, thinking that it might be nice to have kind of a town hall opportunity that you would have a chance to talk with them and they with many of you. But of course, many of you missed Act One, a truly exceptional act, wonderful work that you all did. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce Jasmine Hicks from Young Invincibles. Jasmine was responsible for gathering up this talented group of students. She will tell you a little bit about Young Invincibles. The students will introduce themselves. The students will then give you what they thought were the highlights of yesterday's conversation. And much like many of your students, for those of you who teach, are captive to you, you are now captive to them for the next 30 minutes or so. And I've been told that it's okay for you to do what they do, and that is, in the middle of the conversation, for those of you who need to look at your screens and have the light come back, that's okay. That's okay while we talk. So Jasmine?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine Hicks. I'm the National Field Director for Young Invincibles. We're a national millennial advocacy organization. And we started in 2009 around healthcare, actually. So during the healthcare debate, we really want to make sure young people's voices were at the table as far as issues that concerned us. So we fought really hard for the under 26 provision of the Healthcare Act, then naturally found a voice as far as like other young people's issues. So we work on higher education, healthcare, and workforce development, and our higher education work has brought us here. So we work with young adults all across the country and really want to hear their voices on issues that affect them. So a lot of these students that you see today, we've worked with, they've either interned with us, they've done advocacy work with us, they're really interested in higher education and always have something to say. So hopefully you'll enjoy hearing from them today. So thank you, guys.
Great. Thank you, Jasmine. All right, and with that, first, Gordon Jackson is at one end of the room. Peggy Snyder is at the other. I introduced them before I introduced the students to let you know this really is intended as a town hall. Each of them has a device in terms of coming up to the table and allowing you folks to ask questions. My role is to really just be the moderator and protect the students from some of you if you get a little too feisty with your questions. So with that, Alejandra, if you'll introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Alejandra Cervantes. I am a math and computer science student at UCLA. I am a proud receiver of Pell Grants, proud product of California Community Colleges, and a daughter of 2 Mexican immigrants.
Great, thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kernard Jones. I am a political science major at the illustrious Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas. And I look forward to this conversation, and thank you so much for being here.
Hi, my name is Andrea Foster. I'm a rising senior at Winston-Salem State University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and thank you guys for having me. I'm also a social work major.
Hi, my name is Cameron Vigil. I'm a recent graduate of the University of Colorado, Denver, and I studied sociology and women and gender studies. Thank you for having us here.
Hi, I'm Ramesh. I will be a senior at St. Louis University studying economics and philosophy.
Hi, my name is ELISA Foley. So I'm from Houston. I'm a former homeschooler. I graduated from Houston Community College, and I'll probably be attending the University of Houston in the fall, majoring in communications.
Great. Thank you all. So we don't have filmed highlights from yesterday. We don't have audio highlights from yesterday. rather than me trying to recap, I thought it might be interesting for you to hear what the students thought were the most salient points of the conversation that was largely their discussion about the getting in, being in, and getting through college. Alyssa, would you start for us, please? I've asked them each to sort of pick one item, and then we'll use that as the catalyst for our conversation.
So one highlight that was kind of a recurring theme for me was the need to streamline things, because I've used like so many online classroom sites. I had like a master list of passwords and websites so I could log into one professor's classroom site. Some of them use like Google Drive and Dropbox, and then now I'd have Pearson and McGraw-Hill, and then Canvas and Blackboard. So kind of the need to streamline everything from one classroom experience, and then two, also like admissions and getting into college.
Ramesh?
Yes. Yesterday we talked a lot about providing different resources to students to help them succeed academically in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And a lot of times that information is there. It's provided. It's there. You can find it, but it's just whether students have access to it, whether they know how to access that information, and whether their college advisors and the people that they work with, they know how to access that information. A lot of times they don't.
One thing that really stood out to me is just talking about the advisors themselves at college. I think it's really important to have advisors that know what's required for your major, what classes you need to take, what could work for your schedule, and so on.
A highlight for me was the transition from becoming from being a high school student to being a college student, whether it's advisement or being a guide for them. Also incorporating more advising during orientation, whether it's learning systems or different applications and other placement tests.
Well, a highlight for me was definitely being able to discuss the point that every student should have access to higher education and should have the ability to get invested into and to grow their education, despite where they live or where they come from or their financial background as well.
Something we talked about yesterday that I really appreciated was that while I love that we're all meeting here and we're discussing new ideas in education technology, the importance of not overwhelming students with too many choices, because it does get confusing for us if every teacher has a different system that they utilize.
Great. And as moderator, I'm going to take 2 points that haven't been touched on. One, in the conversation about course materials, digital materials, many of you said, gave you a sense of a locus of more control. The fact that you could go back, you could go forward, you could go all around in a way that more linear course materials, lectures, did not provide. And second, I think many of the comments that you made yesterday were also affirmed that despite the fact that we assume that millennials, or it is assumed that millennials arrive on college campuses with a rich and deep portfolio of technology skills, that's not the case. For some, it's what I've characterized as the GGTT portfolio, Google, game, text, and Twitter, when in fact the skills that they really need on day one, whether it's just learning more at the next level in Word or other kinds of applications, or their first exposure to an LMS, having early access to that and training resources before the first day of class would be very helpful, all right? And with that, this is now open mic. So we're going to ask, before you all run in, the students have been kind and transparent about identifying themselves. I want to quickly poll the audience so you know who this group is in aggregate. How many of you are our full-time or part-time faculty members? Okay. How many of you work in technology and instructional support? How many of you, I realize some of you have overlapping categories. How many of you are in libraries? Great. How many of you are senior campus administrators? Have a vice president, vice provost, vice something or other. Okay? All right. This is the differentiator now. Watch. How many of you sent email before 1985? How many of you were born before 1985? Okay. How many of you sent your first email sometime between 1985 and 1990? How many? Remember, these are adults, so you think that they know how to do email. Watch the next one. How many of you sent your first email sometime between 1990 and 1995? Okay, that's about a quarter of the group. How many of you hate email? All right, great. On that one, we can all agree. All right, now, in order to ask your question, you have to do a couple of things. First, tell us who you are. Second, tell us where you're from. And in order to feed our hyperactive inference engines, tell us what you do at the campus. What's your responsibility, your job title, so we can all make inappropriate inferences about what you do as you ask your question. And we have you, sir, please.
My name is Joseph Garten. I am a K-12. I teach senior English in Reno, Nevada. So my question for you guys.
Wait, I'm sorry. You were actually you were at our presentation yesterday,
yes,
as I recall.
was.
And wasn't it a great presentation?
It was fantastic.
It was phenomenal, wasn't it?
I have a list of questions.
All right, so everybody give this panel, on the basis of his recommendation, would you give the panel a hand right now?
Yeah.
All right. All yours.
And I just want to thank you guys. I'm a huge advocate of student voice, and we don't give you guys enough voice. So thank you for sharing first. Second, give them another round of applause. And my question for you is, as a K-12 instructor and understanding that I have no money to access anything because I'm publicly funded, what is something I can do as a high school teacher to better prepare you for some of the things you talked about yesterday? From that senior perspective, I teach seniors going off to college, and I watch this struggle, and almost all my kids are first gen. What is something that I could do in my classroom to better prepare you guys?
All right, that's a 10-point question. Who would like to grab that one? All right.
I will say the first thing you can do is definitely mentor the students in your class. Provide them that love and nourishment that they may need, and to help them understand that, because then you mentioned that most of your students are first generation. Yeah, so just telling them and helping them understand, you can be that chain breaker. You can be that person, the first person in your family to truly make a difference. You have what it takes inside of you. I always say, the greatest thing that you can give someone is that encouragement, to believe in themselves and to help them understand that they can achieve great heights if they can only put their mind to it. Just be there for them, help them through the process, and and lend that helping hand. You don't have to have money to invest in someone. All you have to do is have a smile and an open heart.
Great answer. Cameron?
I just want to add to that real quick. I honestly, when I was a senior in high school, all I wanted was time. I just wanted like 15 minutes out of your day to show me, how to apply for FAFSA, where to go to apply for college, what's going to be like living on my own, what I might need, just the advice, personal advice. We don't, need any physical resources, just your time.
And you can't get that on screen, can you?
No.
Okay. Alejandra.
I'd like to add a more practical thing that you could do. You mentioned that you're a public K through 12 English teacher, so something that you could do to prep your students for college is maybe have one day where you spend a workshop on using Google Docs, for example, which is a free online web editing application, and you can show your students that it auto-saves, and this is how you do MLA format, and just something simple like that could be pretty instrumental in helping them succeed in their English classes in the future.
You mentioned that they're first generation. Me being, I come from immigrant parents. A lot of times my parents, they have no idea what the college process was for myself, so they have no idea what a FAFSA was. They don't even know like the first steps to take in doing college applications, so helping those first generation students through that process. And also, you're an English teacher. I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of scholarships, and that's because my English teachers worked with me in helping me write personal statements. And so that's a skill that I still have, a skill that I learned. I work with my English teachers in preparing those personal statements. And so helping them with their writing abilities and helping them narrate their stories and telling them about themselves, that could really help them a lot as well.
Good. So let me try to summarize this, because the message I take from what you've each said is that while this is nominally a conference about technology, ultimately touch, safe touch, but touch is very important. That those support conversations with your students, encouragement, assistance, This is how you can do things. These are resources that may be available to you, become very important. And while all of your institutions, I suspect, spend a lot of time trying to anticipate what should we put on screen, because we don't know who's going to hit a screen for our college at 2 o'clock in the morning, it is still the case that touch and support, even if it's an agent at 2 o'clock in the morning, the way that we find in commercial and retail websites, that can become an important resource. Anything else? Next question, Peggy, who's up?
I attended the session yesterday. I want to echo the comments earlier. It was absolutely fantastic, absolutely mind-blowing. One of the main assumptions that as a technologist working in the industry for some time.
Who are you and where are you from?
I'm sorry, Ashish Desai from Villanova University. One of the big assumptions we have in the administrative side of things, in the IT side of things, everybody talks about how savvy tech students are. They use technology from a young age, and you expect students coming in, like they just must know how to do everything. So it was super eye-opening. Thank you so much for your insight yesterday. My two questions that I have. One, what's the best way to communicate with you? Through what way? Clearly we find that people are really dislike email and email contact. And two, once we start communicating to you, how much time do I have to get my point across to you? Do I have 1 minute, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 40 seconds? Thank you.
Just to clarify, would it be communicating instruction or communicating anything? I would say, well, yeah. First of all, we're not very tech savvy coming into college, other than playing games and knowing basic Microsoft Office. I remember one time my sophomore year, I needed to enter a font that wasn't available in Microsoft Word for a legal writing class, and I had no idea how to enter a font into Microsoft Word that's not there. So I had to Google it. And we got through it, but. So yeah, we're not very tech savvy, and the best way to communicate to me, I mean, for me, I would say texting. I mean, I read my texts. They're, mainly they're not that long. You can get the insight. If I need to be somewhere, if I need something done, text, I'll get an alert, and it'll be there. And it's a constant reminder. Every time I look at my phone, it'll tell me that I have something unread.
I would say instruction-wise communication. I don't think that we have to be tech savvy. I just think it should be something mandatory where we at least know the basics and the full basics of certain applications technology-wise. Advisement-wise, I feel like it has to be mandatory for you to communicate with us, because it's something that we need. It's a guide. Whether it's just helping us go to a community college or going to a university, we still need to be guided to our next step, which may be whatever our goals are that we want to achieve, but I feel like it needs to be something that's mandatory. Me, I would agree, texting, or whether it's sitting in your office, I have to do it, or I won't go further on with whatever, the bigger purpose may be.
Let me ask a follow-up to that. So many campuses would say, and we heard a little bit this yesterday, we offer these services. At what point do they have to scream on screen? Attention must be paid, that we are responsible for one part of the message, but students, not the 6 of you, of course, but others that you may have known, also have to be responsible. It's a two-way street. And how, if that's the case, how is that best communicated to say you too are part of this? Anybody? Alejandra.
I think at this point I want to talk back about the user experience, the student experience. We grew up in the Twitter age and the age of information where we constantly have influx. So it's not necessarily that our attention spans are low, but we do need information to be concise and clear. So although it is our responsibility to reach out to you as well, I think that when sending us information, something that y'all could do is make sure that you are as concise as possible and as clear as possible, and just say, this is exactly what you need to get done in your newsletters. Don't make it wordy. We don't like 18th century prose anymore. We just need to know the bare bone facts.
What about 20th century prose?
20th century prose we can deal with. There's a little wiggle room there.
Early or late 20th century?
We'll talk about
right.
our English classes later.
Nuance is very important here, okay? Anybody else?
I would, piggyback a little bit off what she was saying. Definitely make it concise and on what you're saying. Don't word it too much. But I also say, utilize social media. We're all on social media, right? Yeah, we're also on social media. For example, my Texas government professor She, on the first day of class, she had all of us go to our Twitter and follow her on Twitter. At first, I was thinking, oh man, she must want to, grow her following, and use us. That's perfect. But the real reason she did this is because she knew that we'll always be looking at our phone. So instead of using Blackboard as much or other things, she would put alerts on Twitter, and then it would be easy for us to understand, and then go straight to what the instructions that she was trying to give us on Blackboard or others. So utilize social media because we're all on it, even if you have to download a Snapchat.
Great. Gordon, next question. You are, sir.
Me? Ready to go? Great. Also at the session yesterday, everybody else missed out.
Those of you who missed the session, you have no idea what you missed. You are?
I'm Greg Dillon. I'm an instructional technologist at Gordon College. And I wanted to talk a little bit, or ask rather, to facilitate the transition between high school to college. You talked a little bit about the resources that you need in order to learn the technology, like Blackboard, like other educational technology, that you didn't use in high school. However, there were some cases where that resource was provided and you used it and it was great. Other times where it was maybe an Excel class and you're like, I'm not going to need this. And then later you're like, I am going to need this. And then other times where resources weren't provided. So if we want to facilitate this transition, what's the best way to emphasize the importance and get it to you and in a way that you would, that it would really help you out?
Panel?
I think it starts with, like we mentioned yesterday, consistency. I think if you're going to utilize Blackboard or Canvas on a university, we should make sure that a majority of the teachers are utilizing that tool. That way the students are used to it. They know they could go and use that tool whenever they need to check something for class, and that goes for all their classes, not just one or two. And we talked about yesterday how sometimes teachers utilize different tools like Google Docs, or I had a mass comm teacher that would use her own website. It was kind of like Canvas, but we had to check Canvas, and then check our student portal. I think that's just frustrating when you're trying to use 3 different tools for one class.
In high school, I had to use Moodle, which is similar to Blackboard, but and during my orientation, it's called rendition. First week, we get on campus without everybody else, the upperclassmen or whatever, and we prep for Blackboard, but they don't tell us that after we take our general ed courses for the first 2 years that we might change to something else, which we have to learn a completely new system. Obviously, we knew that Moodle and Blackboard would be different, but also it's not consistent at all at that university. Now they're actually changing over so every professor can use one thing, but I would say consistency is very important, but also incorporating some type of learning system before they even get to college to help them move into that further.
So, panel, let me ask you a question, if I may. What if, as part of, once you're admitted, you get the letter that's saying, yes, you're going to Acme College, you got an email or you got a big flash screen that says, attention must be paid. You need to be able to do these 6 things on day 1 of your first class that relate to technology. Paginate in Word, basic spreadsheet. This is the LMS that we're using. If you haven't used it, here's where you go to the tutorial. Would some kind of early announcement with online training be useful, do you think, for the experience that you had and the experience that your peers had?
I think it would be pretty useful. I think to make that kind of training part of orientation. At my orientation at community college, I learned how to register for classes and then how not to get a parking ticket. Like, that was it. But if you made that part of orientation, and if that was, even if you just learned at orientation, you have to do these things, you have to learn, like, complete a module on, Excel, or complete a module on Microsoft Office before you register for your first class or before you start class, like that, I think would be pretty helpful. That would have helped me when I first started in college.
Me, I'm the kind of student, if you give me a list of resources that are gonna help me go, I'm not gonna utilize those resources until I'm like, I'll click around, I'll figure it out. Something like Excel that is so complex, I'm like, wow, I really don't know how to do this. I need to take that Excel lab to learn how to use Excel properly. But like, has anyone here ever watched like a Tasty video on how to make like different recipes? It's a 60-second video. It tells you how to make an entire recipe instead of watching a cook show for 30 minutes. A lot of tutorials are like 30, 40 minutes. I mean, make it like a Tasty video. Make it like 60 seconds. Tell me how I can access these different things and just get it done.
You're here. Let me add. So I'm a little older. The difference in terms of what some folks would call the onboarding experience and orientation, for many of us of a particular age with gray or thinning hair, or perhaps colored hair, when we went through orientation, we were strongly encouraged to take the library tour. How many of you took the library tour? How many of you passed on the library tour? We could pass on the library tour and play catch-up. You can't pass on the technology portfolio. And it sounds like there's a very strong message there about an early attention must be paid message to incoming students. These are the skills you need. How many of you actually do that now? 1, 2, you're not all at the same campus, I'm assuming, right? Okay, so there's a message there. There's an action strategy. Peggy, we have our next question.
Yes, I wanted to follow
I'm sorry, you have to tell us.
I am Kathy Dunnigan. I am at North Carolina State University, and I'm a lead instructional designer there. So I'm working with faculty to create online courses. And I want to go back to the LMS discussion you're having, because here at NMC we're starting to hear we're moving away from LMS. We're going to move to all these different technologies that we can incorporate personalized learning for you, the student. I'd like to hear your impressions of that, because we're moving that way, and what I'm hearing you say today is that it would be great if every one of my classes had the same navigation, and I understand how to use the learning management system, and all the faculty used it in the same way, which is what I used to do at my last institution, was to create that for the student experience. You didn't have to worry about the technology, you got into the learning. So as this diversifies and it's going into all these different technologies coming into the classroom, what's your opinion on that future for you?
Do you want one platform for everything? Or are you willing to deal with multiple platforms at different times? Who's up?
I think that when we talk about personalized learning and our need and desire for personalized learning, I think we should differentiate that between the platforms we use. You know, the platform should be streamlined, it should be simple, it should be one, but on that platform is where we want, you know, the choice in learning.
Anybody else? Alejandra speaks for all of you on that, yes? Okay, great. Next question.
Hi, my name is Gardner Campbell, first English professor, then assistant VP, then director, then senior director, then vice provost, now faculty member.
Can't keep a job.
No, exactly. I like to think of it as one of the soft skills we'll need for the 21st century. So if I might ask the panel, part of the vision I hear is if you would make a better bus schedule, more people would ride the bus. And if you've ever tried to read a bus schedule, I sympathize. But I want to talk about community. And I'd like to hear your experience of a really vital and beneficial community on the internet that you've been able to be part of, and whether you think there's any way to use the internet, not learning management systems, not bus schedules, not, whatever, but the internet itself to help build community among learners.
So probably the best experience I had with an online class, like building a community, is the professor required us to put our short answers to all of our prompts on an open board. And then part of our grade was we had to have conversations with the other students. We had to comment on other students' responses. So that we actually ended up getting into really long, it was all in writing, but really long discussions about the material. And she required that, but then I would always go above the required 2 comments because it ended up getting interesting. That was a good experience I had. I think utilizing video and doing little live feed where you can talk to the other students in an online class, that would be really beneficial to kind of build community.
I have a friend, he's really into Quora. Quora is where you ask a question and people answer it. And so I get on Quora all the time. I'm really into politics. I love reading different views and everything. And one of my friends, he's like he contributes. He like writes like detailed, and now he like gets like recommendations. Him and like other people like people recommend him to answer different questions. And so and it really and he sometimes spends an hour just like reeling. He's like, hey, how does this sound? And then now he has like this following, and people like want his opinion on things. And I mean that's and he's initially like built a community, and people understand that people follow him, people read his posts, and now they want to hear his opinion on different questions as well.
Other comments about community?
Specifically dealing with online communities that we can start building. I had the pleasure of managing the EdSurge independent cohort for around the past year now, and thank you, EdSurge out there. Yeah, I hear
Easy,
y'all.
Renee.
And something that we did was just meet weekly to discuss, to critically discuss higher education topics, and then start building a body of knowledge around student voice in education. There's no reason anymore why classes have to be confined to the people immediately around you. Our cohort spanned 6 different time zones, and we were all sorts of ages. There were several different languages spoken. So in building these communities, you can just start planting the seed, maybe telling a student, hey, are you interested in such and such topic? Maybe you can put out a newsletter and recruit students, and just kind of have a new base where you can discuss these topics with students that you normally wouldn't.
Anybody else on community?
I would also say one of the things, the past semester, spring semester, I had the honor to serve as vice president of the political science organization at my university. And we set up a Facebook page, and we had all of our members a part of that page. And it turned out to be, just some amazing discussions on how we can go out into our community and to, advocate for true change, because we were saying, despite what happens in Washington, D.C., we want to ensure that the people in our community were taken care of. So we just start posting, and every time I would get an update, it was just like a long article of someone posting, oh, we can do this or we can do that. And that right there was a community within itself. So I think that was amazing.
Great. Peggy, our next contestant. You, sir, are?
Hi, I'm James Teen. I'm from NYU. I work with the Finance and Risk Engineering Department. It's a graduate course. I guess my question is sort of multi-part. The first part is, A, do you feel you're ready for post-academic life? If you are...
I'm sorry. How many of you feel you are ready for post-academic life? Yes, I just want a reality check. It's not just the students.
Well, we're all still in academia to some degree, so are we really out of it?
Touché.
But do you feel you're ready for post-academic life? And if you do feel that way, what about your college experience really helped you get to that point? And if you're not, what do you wish you had, or wish you had, was that they gave you or could have provided that would make you feel at least more prepared, if not completely ready?
Great question.
Just recently graduating, I did not feel like I was ready for postgraduate life or post-undergrad life. I think one barrier that I faced, though, is I was an online student, and so I wasn't on campus. I wasn't really able to mingle with other students and like, oh, where are you going after this? Where are you applying to? What resources are you able to use? We talked about this yesterday. I wish that I was kind of more aware of the resources that I would have to go on campus to use, but just to know that I could utilize them. I know that they do have career services on campus that I haven't had a chance to drive down to use, but I'm glad a friend told me about them after. I think just getting a simple email saying like, hey, you just graduated, welcome to alumni. Here's the resources that we have for you now. You're still part of the community, you're still part of the family.
So for me, I really feel like well, I'm not graduated yet, and I'm not in a huge rush to, but
they all will be looking for jobs soon.
Yes. But I feel like what's preparing me more for graduation wasn't entirely the classroom experience. Yes, I learned like writing skills and media production in the classroom, but then I really got more experience like doing on-campus activities. Like I was editor-in-chief of my student newspaper. I got internships through that too. So those kind of experiences is what I feel like is really preparing me for postgraduate life, is on, hands-on experience outside the classroom.
Many of you made comments about the absence of useful career services yesterday. Can we pick that up for a moment for this audience as well?
So for my community college, I tried to go to the career services, and they're like, you need an appointment, and then I tried to call and make an appointment, and they never picked up. So I've never been able to use the career services at my school. So I don't know it's probably just mine, but I've been able to get jobs just through people I've met, through the activities I've done, and people I've met through that. So I've kind of just had to go out of my way to go to career services. I mean, be my own career services, but I wish like my career services was better at my school too.
Alejandra, you look like you were ready.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off that too, and say that I also feel quite prepared for post-academic life, but only because UCLA does do a great job of ensuring that every single computer science student at their school has an internship in the summer. And I'd love to see that expanded across all majors. So if y'all make it a priority to say, I want every student to know exactly how they can apply the theories that they're learning in class, ways you can do that is, if you're a company, make sure you're offering well-paid internships. If you are a school, try to offer scholarships so that students can afford to take unpaid internships, especially political science, English, history majors don't have a lot of opportunities to take paid internships. So that's something that on both sides of the spectrum you can get done.
Career services at my college at St. Louis University, I mean, every time I speak to one of them, they're always working tirelessly to help get prospective employers in. We have a great alumni base, which alumni are always coming back on campus volunteering to talk to current students. They're always there to help you with a resume or a cover letter if you need. You can make an appointment the day of if you really need to. But I think a lot of students, what I see is like they get anxiety thinking of life after college. They're comfortable getting their junior and senior year. I think that the reason a lot of students say they're not ready is because they don't feel comfortable. It's like just anxiety, like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Do I start applying to jobs? And then they just like, I'm not prepared. I'm not, but just having your learning ability, like every job you go to, you're gonna, get given responsibilities, and you're gonna have to fulfill them. Just like same way being a student. And I mean, student, that's like, especially if you have a job and you're really involved, that's like an all-day thing. You go to class, you go to work, you do your extracurriculars, and you're like a lot studying, but then working your job. I think students just get anxiety, but it's just like a learning process and being there to support the student through it.
Andrea?
Okay, at my university, professors and advisors stress very, very hard about networking, because it's about who you know to help you get to those bigger goals and those bigger ranks as you graduate. And also, I feel that career services at my school is very, very helpful. When we call our alum to ask if they want to donate back to the school, they can say, like, I'm unemployed or I'm in between jobs, and we can tell them that our career services will help them. Not just after you graduate, you're on your own, bye, see you later. It's actually, we'll enhance your resume, we'll help you fill out jobs, we'll help find out what's better for you. I volunteer at our child care center, and it's through family services, and almost everybody that volunteers there that's a social work major or human services, a part of the human services department, gets a job there. So that also helps with your networking and making sure there's volunteer opportunities, or like Alejandra said, those internships that can help you grow.
So let's poll the audience. I'm sorry, Alyssa, go ahead, and then I want to poll the audience on something.
So I just wanted to say something about the importance of paid internships. So for first generation, minority, low income students, it's really important that we get paid internships, because like I was working in the food industry this past semester, and then when I got a paid internship for the summer, I was able to quit that job to take this internship. If I didn't get a paid internship, I would have just been working in the food industry all summer. So that's really important for first generation students, low income. Like, we don't have the family to be able to sponsor our unpaid internship. So that's really important just for breaking barriers.
Great. So let's poll the audience. I suspect most of you are not directly involved in career services. Is that a fair inference? But many of you have heard directly or indirectly from the students that you have contact with about the career services and resources at your campus. How many of you think career services at your institutions are just phenomenal? do a great job reaching to students, getting to students early, helping them sort of navigate. I'm looking for one hand in the corner, 2 hands. I have 3, 4, only 3, okay? How many of you think you do okay? You know, we know we've got room to improve, but we're generally okay. So maybe we've got 18 hands in a room of a couple hundred people. That's telling. And how many of you, if your child went to your institution, would say you're in trouble if you were dependent upon the Career Service Office? And we've got a few more hands and a lot of people who don't want to identify the problems at their institutions. So again, not directly your domain, but part of the challenges that students confront as they think about their being in and going beyond. Many of you have more questions. I want to take the mic prerogative because often town hall sessions become an opportunity to complain. I want to give our students an opportunity to close. Tell us the single best experience you had at college. Single best experience that you had at college. Let's just go down through the room.
We have 10 minutes.
Oh, we have 10 minutes.
Yeah,
oh,
we can
I'm sorry.
take another.
Hold your thoughts. I thought we only had 5 minutes. Thank you for correcting me, Peggy. Mid-course correction. You are, please.
Hi, Joan Lippincott, Coalition for Networked Information. Yesterday on the panel, quite a few of you identified the high cost of textbooks as a real roadblock for you. And you talked about ways around that, for example, finding PDFs online, which I imagine may be kind of bootlegged. I wasn't sure what the status of those were. But none of you mentioned open educational resources or OERs or OER textbooks. I wonder if you'd come across that, and especially there are at least, I think, a couple of you from California where the state's putting some real funding into funding faculty to create open educational resources, meaning either free or very low cost textbooks in the most heavily enrolled disciplines throughout California at the higher ed level. Do you know about this? Would you advocate for these things on your campus? Thanks.
So I've had professors use open resources. One, in her classroom site, like she linked to PDFs and she linked to online articles and she did not use a textbook. So everything in that class was free. I had a psychology professor at my school use OpenStax, which is based out of my hometown of Houston. And then at my school, we actually had students advocate for more professors using OpenStax and other open source textbooks. And that has been a real movement at our school. And I know from the time I've been there, from the time I started to just now, this past May, they made a completely textbook cost-free degree, and it's the business associate. So they made a track to where you can take it and you don't have to buy any textbooks. It's all an open source track. So that's a real innovative thing. I'm really proud of my school for doing that.
The cost of textbooks is a huge problem. And it's definitely a huge problem on my university campus as well, and something that I've been trying to work with the president of my university to try to figure out a way of reducing the cost of textbooks on our campus. Just recently, I ran for an SGA Senate position, and I had a town hall, and that was the #1 issue that students continuously brought to the forefront, the fact that textbooks are too costly. It costs too much, and it's ridiculous. Some of them were failing classes because of the fact they couldn't afford to buy a textbook. So it's something we definitely need to look at and to advocate for, and to go toward, the leaders of our university and also the leaders of our state houses to see if working with an initiative to bring textbooks costs down a little bit.
My experiences with those open resources is that they're always very limited. I can't find the edition that I need, or sometimes they'll just bring up similar books that are related. So they're not. Your options are very limited. I don't buy. I always try to rent my textbooks online, whether it be Barnes and Noble or Amazon. But even then, it's like $20, $40, and I'm asking, like, I ask myself, like, do I really need it? Can I get by without it? But if I see that it's going to help me, because I have to write things down to retaining. I like to highlight my textbook, annotate it along the side, take notes in it. But yeah, so I ask myself, do I really need this? Is it really going to help me improve my grade in the class? And if it's yes, then I go ahead and rent it. But I would never buy a textbook. And a lot of colleges, they have like initiatives also to compare, like they compare like how many students are enrolled in the class and how many students bought the book, like as a mainstream of revenue, and that's not right.
I just want to say, before I graduated, I had a lot of teachers that would mail or send an email the syllabus and say, well, you could get the textbook, this is how much it is on the bookstore, or you could go to this website or this website or this website. And I want to say that's really resourceful for my teachers to do the research and tell us, where it's cheaper. And more than 75% of the time I went to Chegg, because Chegg was a lifesaver. But at the same time, it was kind of scary that the teachers realized, the textbooks were overpriced and that most of us couldn't afford it.
I want to say that if California is investing in open source textbooks, news of that has not reached UCLA. But none of my professors so far have used a free textbook. And in fact, it seems like very arbitrary as the choices that they make in their textbook and the particular edition that they want. And naturally, all the different questions, all the questions in the textbook are numbered differently between editions. So you're forced to get the newest edition, which costs $100 more. So I think on your end, I think that there could be a lot done in incentivizing professors to use open source textbooks and be less arbitrary about the decisions that they make, helping more students share old textbooks, things like that. Giving professors a little less leeway on their decision in textbooks, I think, could be helpful for students.
Great, thank you. So now we come to the last question, because we have this extra 5 minutes. We're going to try to end on an up. The single best experience you had, academic or otherwise, as part of being in college.
So I don't know about just one, but just a group of things. So being involved with student activities, I was involved in my student newspaper, and then I was involved with Phi Theta Kappa, which is an honor society for 2 years college students. So I learned so much through those and met so many people, and then my school actually sponsored us to travel to come to conferences. So those were probably collectively like the best experiences I had was with extracurricular kind of activities.
I also just want to drop in real quick. Renting a textbook is $20, $40. Getting a Pearson online pass is $100. And I know technology is supposed to save money, but in that case, I'm not saving money. So just want to throw that out there real quick. If I get a Pearson, okay. My best experience in college has always been my instructors. I mean, I haven't had a horrible I've been fortunate enough to not be in college for 3 years, and I haven't had a bad instructor. All my instructors are always there for students. They have open communication. If you can't make it to their office hours, you can email them. They'll work with you and meet with them. It's just having a dedicated staff, and I've been fortunate enough to always have good instructors.
My best experience in college was being able to be a concurrent student, because I was able to graduate with 70 credits out of high school, and the amount of money that saved me and my family was amazing. So for every college that allows high school students to take your classes and I had to maintain a B average, just to let you know. I actually tried, but and allowing us to be there, thank you.
My favorite experience, I would have to say, is the interaction with my advisors and my professors. I attend a HBCU, and they always make sure that we know our minority history, because in high school, half of the things that I thought I knew, I really didn't know, whether it was just things I thought I knew just for African Americans, but also the other groups in the minority division. It's very, very important that me being African American, that I know that those things that will help me further on down the road, but also they push us because of that history. Like, they took things from us, so make sure you go out and get it. You can do it. And where I come from, a lot of people don't make it out, so that's something that I need to be pushed for while I'm in school. Even though my mom and my grandparents are educated, I still have people here in Winston-Salem that push me, and that's very, very important.
My greatest experience in college, and I'll also say I just finished my first year of college, going on to my second year. But my greatest experience has been being able to create 2 scholarships on campus to financially assist my fellow student body. I also come from an HBCU, and we've dealt with cuts in our funding and students not having the money to be able to continue to pay for their college experience and graduate within 4 years. So coming on campus and seeing that problem, I decided not to just sit around and talk about the issue, but actually stand up and work toward fixing the issue. And just last year, this past semester, I was able to award a total of 10 students on campus with money to be able to continue their education at Texas Southern University. So I would say that has been a great honor.
I think generally my best post-secondary experience has been the 2 years that I spent at community college. I think community colleges are unique in that they really strive to understand their student body, and I think that most universities could learn a lot, could do a lot to learn from and take a page from community college's book.
Great, thank you all. I hope you'll join me in thanking our panel.